All right, welcome back, everybody. We are just about to start our next talk, and it's going to be by Nicolas Divarto, who will talk to us about finance in using Python. So please welcome him warmly.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my talk in Hiroshima today. Today I will be talking about Pythonic finance. How do we analyze company fundamentals with SEC Edgar APIs, which is a pretty interesting concept according to me. But before we start the presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Nicolas Divarto. I am from Henge KK. That is my company, and that is my GitHub and Stack Overflow. And this was a picture of me from high school. So in high school, I was allowed to have long hair, but now I already cut it. So yeah, that's just a fun trivia. I'm from Indonesia, been in Japan for around 3 years, working on cloud security software in Henge. I do not work on financial analysis. It's just a hobby of mine. My professional interests are mainly in the tech world, particularly web development. It's my circle of competence, and finance world as well, financial markets. Fun trivia, I've been burned by the financial market before in high school, so I know what it's like to lose your money. And I realized that many people often find the finance world intimidating, so that's why I got inspired to create this talk. I speak English, Bahasa Indonesia, and Japanese. I just passed N4 last month. And yeah, thank you. And yeah, today we're going to bridge the gap between Python and financial analysis. So first of all is a mandatory disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor, and this talk is only for educational purposes and does not constitute any financial advice. Please do your own research before making any investment decisions. And in order to maintain clarity and to avoid providing investment recommendations, this presentation will not delve into company valuation theories or anything that involves stock prices. So I will not teach about how to buy stocks. I will not teach about algo trading. I will not teach about anything that is related to stock prices. So yeah, the content of this presentation, we already got past the introduction, and then I will explain about the base theories. I will explain about the financial concepts. I will show a live data analysis, and then I will show my learnings, and then we can finally have a Q&A. And first off, before starting the presentation, I would like to start with a quote. The most important investment that you can make is in yourself. So, because if you invest in yourself, nobody can take it away from you. So that's one thing that always stuck with me. So yeah, the background. Why? Why do we probably want to do this? The reason is because we want to move beyond manual data entry and messy spreadsheet. So I have a friend, he likes to do this kind of financial data analysis, and how he did that is that he will download a copy of the financial report, and then he will try to read the financial report, and then he will try to put the data inside of Google Sheets. And it takes so long, and when I asked him one time, he said that it takes 12 hours. So it's very painful to analyze company data manually. And of course, this is very scalable. If you can programmatically analyze companies, you can customize it, you can make it, you can reproduce it easily, and then you can get to combine programming and finance, which is always a good idea. And we will start with the base theories first of why this is important, of the basic knowledge of what you need to know. The first is Securities and Exchange Commission. We are going to focus mostly on the US market because it has the most advanced, investors friendly, they provide JSON API, so that's why we focus on the US market. The first thing that we have to know is the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. So this is an organization in the securities industry in the United States, and its mission is to protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. And from the SEC itself, SEC has a database called EDGAR. EDGAR stands for Electronic Data Gathering, Analysis, and Retrieval. And companies are legally required to file certain documents with the SEC through this system. And it's public, so you can access the data. Next is that you have to understand about key report filings. So key report filings, we have two, 10K annual report and then 20F annual report for foreign private issuers. We will focus on these two reports. For 10K itself, it's a comprehensive annual report required by the SEC. And the difference between 10K and 20F, both of them are annual reports, but 10K is for companies inside of the United States and traded in the United States, while 20F is a company outside of the United States, but traded in the United States. I will explain more later in the demo. And then there is also a concept that we have to understand, which is called Extensible Business Reporting Language, called XBRL. It is a standardized language for digital business reporting, and it is an XML document. So it's very similar to like HTML text, if you know HTML. And it takes financial data, makes it machine readable, and allows you to have an easier data extraction and analysis. And SEC itself uses XBRL for company filings like 10K, 20F, 10Q, and other forms. So this is one example of the inline XBRL viewer from SEC document, SEC website, sorry. I can show you the document. Yeah, something like this. So one thing that's also very interesting to me is that you can technically hover over one of the orange field here. If you click, you can see the information that is relevant to your data analysis. So for example, in this case, net sales products, we can see tag US generally accepted accounting principles, revenue from contract with customer excluding assess tax, and then the fact, period, axis, member, and other information that you may need. So let's continue from this slideshow. And then, yeah, this is the data that I just showed you earlier. This is the raw XBRL data. As you can see, it is very similar to HTML. You can see XBRL, you can see entity, you can see period, you can see open text, closing text, very similar to HTML in general. This is the raw data of the XBRL. I can show you here. This is very hard to read, but it's pretty. As you can see, it's pretty easy to understand. It's hard to read, but easy to like get some context about what is this data about. So, for example, in that case, you can see revenue from contract with customer excluding assess tax, and then you can also see the value here. This is the data that you can see that is from here. So that's one more thing to consider. And then, because XBRL itself, it's very difficult to parse due to the complex XML structure and schema validations. SEC itself provides a JSON API. So this JSON API will deliver the financial data in a structured JSON format, and it makes it easy for you to parse and integrate into your scripts and tools and or other technical items. We have two useful endpoints. The one is a mapping of tickers and company ID. So in the SEC database itself, we have something called CIK, Central Index Key, and that serves as a primary key of that company in the SEC's database. And then the second one is the Company Facts API. You can put the CIK of the company that you want to analyze in the path parameter, and then you can see data, something like this. So this is an example of the company that I'm going to use, Alphabet Inc. or Google. You can see that this is the API response. We have the CIK, we have the entity name, we have the facts, and then we have the entity public float and other kind of data that might be useful. So before we move forward into the data analysis, we have to understand about the financial concepts. I'm going to introduce 5 financial pillars that are very useful and very versatile that you can use everywhere. The first thing is revenue. Revenue is a total amount of income generated by the sale of goods or services. And then the net income, which is the remaining amount of revenue after deducting all of the possible expenses, interests and taxes. It's different than EBITDA, or EBITDA is earnings before income, before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, or FCF, free cash flow. It's completely different thing. And then the next is assets, resources owned or controlled by a company as a result of past events, so such as buildings, intellectual properties maybe, liabilities, obligations of company arising from past events. So for example, if a company has a debt, if a company raises bonds. And then finally, equity, which is the value that will be returned to stakeholders if all assets were to be liquidated and all debts were to be paid off. So by knowing those five financial pillars, we can dive deeper into financial ratios. This is the actual value, this is the actual number that we want. The first is, I'm going to introduce only 2 metrics, but there are a lot more. I will introduce net profit margin, which is a measure of how much net income is generated as a percentage of revenue. And then I will also introduce debt to equity, which is how much a debt a company has compared to the value of its ownership stake. The formula is relatively straightforward. For net profit margin, it's net income divided by revenue times 100, while debt to equity is liabilities divided by equity times 100. So it's related to the 5 financial pillars that I explained before. So for net profit margin, higher ratio means that the company is more efficient at converting revenue into an actual profit, while debt to equity is, if it's high, then it means that it indicates a reliance on leverage, which can amplify return but also risks. This is not a good and not a bad thing, so it depends on how you look at it. And then other financial ratios exist. There are return on equity, return on assets, debt to equity, asset turnover ratio, and many more. I believe that it's important if you understand those ratios, since you can know the capital structure, the leverage impact for that company, the operational efficiency, and the financial strategy of that company. So this is just a quick illustration of net profit margin. So 20% means that for every $1 of revenue, the company earns 20 cents in profit after all expenses, interest, and taxes are paid. And then this is just the illustration of debt to equity. Ratio of 0.5 means that the company uses 50 cents of debt for every $1 of shareholder equity. And now that we have understood the concepts and the ratios, the 5 financial pillars that I told you about, we can start to move with the live data analysis. So I already have a Google Colaboratory, and how we analyze the data is that we will just do what is common. The first thing is that we fetch the data from the SEC Edgar API. The next is that we validate the data. And then the third is that we analyze the data. So if you see in my talk description, I also introduced something about Pydantic. Pydantic is a tool that we use in our company. I will show you why it's really nice to have that in data analysis process. So yeah, let's do the data analysis together. I will share my Google Colaboratory. So yeah, this is the data. So yeah, as you can see, this is the Google Colaboratory. It's just the usual title, details, important disclaimer. So for the first step that I'm going to do is that we are going to import the necessary libraries. We will use requests to send HTTP requests, pandas to organize data, like this is your usual data analysis starter pack, matplotlib to create charts, and then Pydantic to define and validate the structure of the data. So this one I will just run because it's just importing. And then the next one is defining the options. So I like to put every global variable kind of at the very top, so it's very easy to follow. Initially, we will analyze alphabet INC together, and the CIK I already found it, which is 1652044. So this one we will just run. Yeah, and then the next is the Pydantic models. So for Pydantic models, it is like defining schemas. And what you can do with this schema is that once you validate anything with these classes, with this model, you will be able to exactly know whether the data is according to your specifications or not. So in this case, I can be rest assured that the data will always be like this. So in this case, I will just run it. And then the next thing that we have to do is that we just fetch the company data. As you can see, I will just fetch the company data here from the public API, just run it. And yeah, as you can see, successfully fetch data. And then after that, we can observe the raw company data. This will take a while. And yeah, this is the JSON response of the company facts API. As you can see, there's a lot of possible properties. So it's really wild, I would say. Yeah, it can be messy, it can be inconsistent, it can have missing fields. And with Pydantic schema that we have defined above, we can kind of like guarantee that the data matches the structure that we expect. So what I just do is that I just define a function that accepts a dictionary of string or any, and then I just model validate it. And after I model validate it, I will just dump it as JSON. And as you can see, the data is now according to what we expect, which is very nice. And after we have successfully validated the data, the next thing that we have to do is that we have to create the data frame, because we have to be able to analyze the data. And for creating the data frame itself, there are two things that we have to consider. The first one is we have to handle the metric variations. So financial reporting standards usually use different tags or names for essentially the same financial metric, such as like different ways to report revenue or equity. And we have to be able to identify the variations and to map them into a single kind of like unified column that we expect. And then also we have to derive the metrics. Like for example, some metrics like liabilities are not always reported directly, but can be derived from others. So there is one mapper that I found here in GitHub. So someone actually already mapped I think all of the possible financial metric into a single kind of like general metric, such as this: non-current assets, total assets, current liabilities. So yeah, thanks to this person. I will also share the link for this mapper later. So yeah, for this we just run the script. What it does is that it just extracts the annual data series, and then it just makes the fundamental data frame. It's a little bit complex, but I left behind some comments here in order to make it easier to follow. And then after we have successfully created the data frame, we can display the data frame that we just created, which is this. Now the data itself is very tidy. Now we can know the revenue, the net income, the assets, liabilities, equity, and other data. And then this is just the recap of the financial metrics. I will skip this one. And we can calculate the ratios after we have found the data frame, after we have created the fundamentals data frame earlier. As you can see, I just implemented the formula here, like net profit margin means net income divided by revenue, while debt to equity is just liabilities divided by equity, and I just apply it to every possible row. And then after that, we can just call the data frame, and this is the data that we found: net profit margin, debt to equity ratio. So we are almost done with the data analysis. And yeah, this is just a quick recap of what is net profit margin and debt to equity. I will also skip this one because we already went through it earlier. And to make it much more tidier, I decided to create a formatted summary table. So you can see here that the data now is very formatted. Now we know the revenue, the net income, assets, liabilities, equity, plus the two financial ratios that I described earlier. And with this data frame, we can now plot the ratios and graphs. So just run the script. And then, yeah, this is the data that we actually want to see. So in this company example for Alphabet Inc., this is how they perform from 2017 to 2025. We can see the net income and the revenue and how it correlates with one another. And then we can also find the net profit margin over time. This is the data that we want. So there is 1 year in 2018 where it kind of like drops only 12%, but now it kind of like raises again. And then we can also find the debt to equity ratio. Just plot it, and then this is the data that we probably want. And yeah, this is the data. This is possible. All of the data here are structured because it's from actual, U.S. company in the U.S. What about if I change it to another company that is traded in the U.S. but it's not U.S. based, such as Spotify? So if I try to do with Spotify, what will happen is that I will just comment this out, comment, and then uncomment, and then I will just run all. What will happen is that there will be no data at all because companies outside of the US will have different ways to report. So you may have to be able to like map how their accounting system to your own automation. So yeah, we can continue with the presentation. So for learnings itself, slideshow. I guess the first thing that I learned during this experiment is that there are a lot of data nuances. Like company facts itself, the API can have multiple potential issues, such as there are multiple ways of representing a single metric. And depending on the reporting form that's used, like 10K or 20F, they can have different XBRL tags. Two tools are helpful to ensure that our data is in the right format. In this case, I use Pydantic and that helpful XBRL mapper to be able to map that financial metric into a single common metric. And then I will briefly touch about international systems. So Japan has its own system for XBRL called Edinet. So you can actually click at the link that I have here if you want to see the data, like if you want to see how Japan does its automated financial reporting. But sadly, Japan doesn't have JSON API yet, so that's a little bit unfortunate. And then Indonesia also has started to support XBRL format for financial data reporting for public companies, but it's not yet open source and there's no JSON API, so we cannot like analyze it programmatically. And while other countries also support XBRL format, there are some caveats, like data may be in different format, as you can see in the Spotify and Alphabet, and there may not yet be JSON API. And then conclusion. I would say that it's generally possible to automate financial analysis with Python as far as US market goes, because they have a well-developed financial market with enough supporting systems such as the reporting standards and JSON API. And then we have to be able to do data validation, and we have to know what metrics to use. So you have to like really understand how accounting and finance is before you dive deep into this. And other countries may have different reporting systems, but most of them started to use XBRL as the data format. It could be possible to automate everything with the assumption that you know how they report their major financial metrics. And for future exploration, I say that you can analyze more metrics, calculate other financial ratios, compare metrics directly across multiple companies, and then investigate why data might be missing or different for certain companies, like Spotify earlier. Maybe you can help me to understand how they map their data. And for the supplementary materials, I will upload them in pre-talks, and I will also share the GitHub link to the attendees later. And I think that's all from me. Thank you so much. This is the end of my presentation, but before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about my company. We are a publicly traded Jojo Kigyo cloud security B2B company in Tokyo. We have been in business since 1996. We are hiring English first for full-time engineering positions and internship positions. Please contact me for further information or save the link and the QR code in the next slide, and please visit our booth. So this is the QR code. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I think we have 5 minutes, 30 seconds. I believe we can start with the Q&A. Thank you so much for listening to my talk.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. And as he said, we have 5 minutes, and yeah, no 30 seconds anymore left for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Hola, hola.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I have one question regarding the, first of all, thanks for the talk. About the interpretation of results, I was wondering if you have all the automation for the analysis, then how much can you automate regarding the interpretation? Are you using, for example, some kind of AI chatbot, or how are people doing it these days?
I mean, for me, how I do it personally is that I just look at how the charts are, and then I immediately like can make some kind of like a guess of why the company is performing that way. And then what I can also do is that after looking at the metrics, I can try to correlate it with the news, see like why is the metric and the ratios is that way. And for integrating AI itself, I haven't really integrated AI to like financial analysis, but it's definitely a good idea. So I might probably try to also like ask, Gemini, ChatGPT, or other AIs.
Do you know if there are solutions already in the market for that kind of like, I mean, if you are analyzing 1,000 or let's say a lot of the market share, then I guess there might be some kind of solution.
I'm not sure about that, because also in financial metrics, I think different companies have their own strategy of analyzing. So for example, if a company has a high leverage in company A, if analyzed by investment from A, it may be a bad thing. And if the company has a high leverage in investment company B, it may be a good thing. So it really depends on how you want your analysis to be, I think. So I don't think there's a like one size fit all solution for the market, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for your talk. I was just interested in your sort of validation layer, and I was interested to know why you went with Pydantic as opposed to just doing the validation within Pandas itself.
So for Pydantic, it is in this line, right? Okay. So the reason why I use Pydantic is because our company uses it, and that's actually really true. Like our company uses it, and then we really like it because Python is technically not a typed language, so it is very difficult to be able to parse the structure according to what you want. So the reason why I use Pydantic is because I really wanted to make sure that this data fits according to my structure. So I also don't want the analysis to suddenly throw an error if it misses a metric. I would rather have all of them fail in the Pydantic layer rather than when they are creating the data frame, for example.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
Right, we have time for maybe one more question. All right.
So going from traditional financial analysis to automated financial analysis, how would you propose to a company who maybe is doing it the old way, the benefits of doing it automated?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. So if I were to propose to a company, I would probably start with learning on how to, depending on what company, I would start with showing them how much time that could be saved for doing this way of financial analysis. I know that in the very beginning, it will probably take more time because you have to understand how the data is structured and how would you parse them into readable charts and financial metrics. But I think in the long run, it will actually save more time because when I asked my friend, he also kind of did financial analysis. He had to spend 12 hours every year just to analyze a single company. And that's a single company. If he has to analyze 10 companies, that it becomes 120 hours, which is a lot of time wasted. So I think if I were to convince a company, I will try to convince them on how much time that we could have saved and work on other things, I think. Thank you.
So it's an initial investment of time, and once it's up and running, then it saves them time long term.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And with that, we are out of time. Once again, thank you very much, Nicholas, for your fantastic presentation.